Hello, my friends. Yesterday, the occupiers managed to make some progress in almost all directions, and today the fierce battles continue unabated. They are relentlessly pushing forward toward their objective. Let's dive right into the Kharkiv front. Here, the Russians are reinforcing their positions and fortifying defenses to hold the line as the Ukrainian forces continue to launch counterattacks, successfully pushing back the front line. Recently, the Ukrainian forces managed to push the Russians away from the village of Liptsi, and now the battles for Gliboke rages on. Despite several days of attacks, there have been no significant changes along the front line. In Vovchansk, the occupiers are also trying to hold their ground, clinging to the outskirts of the city. However, the Ukrainian forces continue to their counteroffensive, doing everything they can to drive the Russians out of the settlement. Unfortunately, Vovchansk is now a devastated area, uninhabitable due to the relentless shelling that hasn't ceased. In the Kupiansk direction, the occupiers are gradually pushing through the defenses of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, and as it appears, they are making progress. They are moving towards the settlement of Pishane, and they have come very close to the village of Stepova Novosilka, while Ivanivka has already fallen completely under their control. Fighting continues also in Sinkivka as well, where the occupiers have managed to take control of the last street of the village and are trying to advance further. The Ukrainian forces continue to repel the attacks, but it's evident that due to the greater number of Russian forces and the increased shelling from their side, periodic retreats are necessary. In the Svatove area, the situation has also gradually worsened. Here, after prolonged battles, the Russians have advanced as close as possible to Berestove and Pishane. They are effectively on the outskirts of the settlements. Additionally, they have approached as close as possible to Myasozharivka and Andriivka. Meanwhile, the Russians have even claimed to have captured this village, although the Ukrainian side hasn't yet confirmed this information. In the Kreminna direction, there have been no changes along the front line, despite continued assaults on Nevsk, Terne, and Torsk, as well as ongoing battles in the forest near Kreminna. The Ukrainian forces have successfully repelled all attacks, maintaining the front line unchanged. In the Siversk direction, after months of intense fighting, the Russians have only partially captured Bilohorivka, and the battles are still ongoing. Meanwhile, the situation has significantly worsened near Vyimka. Here, the Russians have advanced across the fields and moved closer to key settlements. Now, the fighting is occurring on the outskirts of these villages with continuous assaults on Verkhnyo-Kamensk. We are waiting to see how these latest battles will conclude. In the Chasiv Yar direction, the fighting is extremely intense, with battles raging for every position. Both the Ukrainian forces and the Russians are experiencing success. The Ukrainian forces have managed to push the Russians back from the outskirts of Chasiv Yar, while the Russians continue to advance in Ivanivsk. The situation is complicated, but the occupiers still cannot fully capture Chasiv Yar. They are spending massive amounts of reserves and equipment daily without achieving the necessary results, effectively standing still. Meanwhile, shelling of Kostiantynivka with K-500 bombs has increased. The Russians are attempting to destroy another large frontline city. And President Zelensky emphasized the urgent need for more air defense systems for Ukraine.
Лише керованих авіабомб щоденно до сотні. Неділя – 80 керованих авіаударів. Понеділок – 95 керованих авіабомб. Це шалено руйнівний тиск. Плюс ракети, плюс ударні дрони. Поки ми не позбавимо Росію такої можливості тероризувати Україну, у Путіна не буде справжнього інтересу шукати чесний мир, і буде незмінною його ілюзія, що Україну можна стерти, розбивши бомбами і ракетами все, що дає життю основу і захист. ППО – це відповідь. Дякую, Олафе, за ППО.
In the Pokrovsk direction. So the occupiers continue to show maximum activity. Over the past 24 hours, there have been more than 25 assaults and the fighting hasn't ceased. They still cannot reach the highway, so they are bombarding frontline villages and storming Novo-Alexandrivka and Kalinove. They are near the outskirts of the village but cannot enter it. All the information from Russian sources claiming they are already in the village is not confirmed by the Ukrainian side. Attacks on the villages of Sokil and Novoselivka Persha also continue. Meanwhile, the occupiers are attempting to storm the outskirts of Yasnobrodivka and occasionally break through the fields closer to Karlivka. All attempts to advance on the highway yesterday were unsuccessful, so now they have changed the direction of their attacks. However, the Ukrainian Armed Forces managed to repel the attacks here, and the front line hasn't changed over the past day. In the direction of Kurakhove, the occupiers are still storming the northern part of Krasnohorivka. Today, there are many frontline commentators trying to present even the slightest movements as significant Russian successes. They claim the Russians advanced 500 meters forward today, and tomorrow they report that the Ukrainian forces have supposedly already recaptured these positions, and so it goes every day. They invent progress that isn't there. So don't believe these commentators, they don't convey any truth. All these movements are fictitious, and on the front line, daily movements of 50 and 100 meters are normal. But in reality, the occupiers are unable to advance and establish themselves on new positions. Therefore, there is no point in discussing these movements. In Krasnohorivka, the northern part remains under the Ukrainian Armed Forces control, although the Russians have effectively destroyed the city completely. Additionally, there are battles for Paraskovievka, which the Russians allegedly captured a few days ago, but here too, the front line remains unchanged. In the Vuhledar direction, near Staromayorsk and Urozhaine, the occupiers continue their attacks and heavy shelling. However, there are still no significant changes along the front line, and the Ukrainian forces are repelling all attacks. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, Russian activity is also ongoing and has significantly increased. Today, the occupiers are attempting to break through to the village of Sherbaki. Fighting is taking place near Novoprokopivka, Verbove, Novoprokhovka, and the village of Charivne. The battles are ongoing, so it's too early to discuss any outcomes, but new data about the Ukrainian Armed Forces defense line in the Zaporizhzhia direction has emerged today. It's evident that their defenses are now taking a more finished form and, at least in terms of durability, are comparable to the Russian ones that the Ukrainian forces were unable to breach. Therefore, there is hope that the Zaporizhzhia direction is well protected and the Russians will not be able to break through here even if they launch a strong offensive. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for other directions. In other cities, the situation with defense lines is still much worse. So, we are waiting to see how events will unfold in this direction. In the Kherson direction, no new Russian offensive towards the village of Kreminna have been reported today, but Shalin on the right bank continues. Despite this, the Russians haven't achieved any success and the front line remains unchanged. Meanwhile, Italy has agreed on an aid package for Ukraine. The package includes 140 million euros for infrastructure restoration. This was announced by Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani at the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Berlin. Additionally, Italy is prepared to send an extra package containing SAMP-T systems to support Ukrainian air defense. And Zelensky said that Ukraine will end this war with a victory over Russia.
Ми не залишимо її у спадок після себе. Ми завершимо цю війну. Ми завершимо її в інтересах України та в інтересах усієї Європи, усіх нас. І усі, хто буде після нас, ми завершимо її на своїх умовах, які зрозумілі будь-якій людині, звичайній людині на цій землі.
He also hinted that Belarus needs to be freed from Lukashenko and Putin. So they brought Belarus to its knees. Are we going to allow Russia to continue this march through Europe, this march of disregard for life and nations? Absolutely not. And this is our common interest, a shared interest that Putin personally loses. After this speech, there were 2 minutes and 48 seconds of applause. It's reported that this is a record. Whether there will be a similar record for arms supplies remains to be seen. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.